Hey, and welcome to the second and next episode of the Silent Hunter 5 series. Uh, Last time I showed you how to use the Harbour pilot and a bit on real navigation and real navigation automation script. This time I want to show you some more features that can be used on in various occasions and for several purposes. And I want to give you an introduction into the TDC, or the Torpedo Vorhalterechner, as it's called in German. Talk a bit about the key components of firing solution and the reasons why it is a bit harder to fire a torpedo than it is to fire the cannon round or a bullet from a rifle. So, but first, start with one thing that is necessary that kind of connects to the last episode. We started. I was exiting the game, and I loaded the game now again, and you see that our markers from the last episode are not there anymore, and as well that the script that we started last time is not active. So scripts they are not saved when you exit the game, and you have to start them once again when you are loading a new game. So we do that now. Once again, we choose the navigation, position and patrol as last time, and now we have to find the right time. It's 10 to 9, so we use that one, put it in again, and activate it. And now we're fine again, and the navigator will update our positions. I will ask him as well to do a celestial fix right away, so that we get a position to start with. But we're still on course 247 and patrolling down southwest to our patrol area. One thing that I want to show you that is really handy and helpful is some additional pieces of paper and information that you can get while you're watching the maps, the tactical map or the navigation map. And you get those by clicking on this notepad symbol here, and then you get this window where you can choose different categories of maps and information. You can widen the window a bit to see all the options available. So this is by the default, and here you can choose flags, and you get this piece, this table, where you see different flags for all the nationalities, and you see if they are on the Axis or on the Allies side, and as well when they entered the war. So you can see if it is. You can check if it is okay to actually sink a ship, or if you rather should leave it alone because it's a neutral one, or even an allied one. You have as well those here, those two, shipping colored and shipping non-colored, and they show more or less the same information, and they give you just an overview on the main shipping routes during the war. So you have here the convoy routes, the single merchant routes, and information on air coverage, and get the one as well, one in non-colored, so a little bit more old-fashioned coloring, but the information on the maps is the same. Now to the most important part, actually, and this is speed conversions. And you have two tables here that you can watch, and it's knots in meters per minute and knots in kilometers per hour. So let's do the first one. This you would use if you are actually for a torpedo attack, and it gives you a very fast and well-written overview about speed and distance and connected times to it. So for example, you have the target speed here, or you can as well use it for your own speed, and you have the time here and this in minutes, and you get the distance in meters. So this is knots, this is in minutes, this is in meters, and the conversion is already done, so you don't have to think about converting from nautical miles to meters. and you just look up whatever you want to know. So if you are cruising along with, as we do with 9 knots at the moment, and we want to know how much distance we cover in 5 minutes, we go here. And for all the values in between, you might to interpolate, but you can as well use the nomograph that I will show you in a second, or you can use the tech disk, but this is a really fast and easy way to just guesstimate speeds and traveling distances. You can use it as well, of course, the other way around. Let's say you have a target, you were observing a target, and you know what distance it traveled during a certain amount of time. Let's say we were kind of observing it for 5 minutes. We made 2 separate measurements between with 5 minutes in between, and we know the distance that it covered. Let's say it was traveling roughly 1,000 meters, and then you will see like, well, here this is about 1,000 meters. We were watching it for 5 minutes, so the speed is around 7 knots. Very helpful if you are trying to determine the speed of the target, and the speed of the target is a really important value if you want to make a torpedo attack. The same you have for knots, but this time not in meters, in plane meters, but in kilometers. And here you have a bit longer time frame, so it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. This is nice if you want to actually check how long it will take you to go from one space to the other. If you have real navigation, you don't get information on the waypoint itself, how long it will take. But then you have this table where you can look it up in the same way as the table before, but just the time frame and the distance is a bit higher now. And on top of that, it is as well a very helpful table. If you get contact reports, or via the radio or on the map, I will show them to you when they show up. You get most often an estimated speed for the contact or the convoy, but it's quite often that they don't give you the exact speed in knots, but they just tell you the contact or the convoy is slow, it's medium fast, or it's fast, and then you can look into this table and see what you have to expect. So if you get a contact report about a convoy that is traveling west with medium speed, you know the speed will approximately be between 7 and 12 knots. So this is a very good starting point to actually plan your attack and to intercept the convoy. You can as well move those just out of view here on top, and you can kind of drag them in whenever you need them, or you just close this window and they are gone again, and if you click on them again, you get the setup of the table you watched last. So very fast and easy way to determine speed, range and time of your targets or of yourself. Next thing I want to show you is the nomograph, and you can switch it up on and off with this button here in the upper left. So you see it will disappear and appear again. It's this 3 lines on this side, and it is as well a very fast way to determine speed, time or distance out of the other 2 variables. And you use it just by placing the ruler on it. And this as well in knots, meters, minutes and kilometers. So the conversion is already done between nautical miles and meters, so you don't have to worry about that. And it works in a similar way. You just connect the line from the value between the values you know, and you see where it intersects with the value you want to know, and you kind of read it up. So if we take it as the same example, and we said we have observed contact for 5 minutes, and it did about 1 kilometer in distance, and we just draw a line here from 5. Let's do this a bit more precise. From 5 to over to 1 kilometer, and we see where it crosses the line for knots, or the rule of knots, and it's about 6.5 knots speed that it did. And if you want to have it from another, for example, we are traveling with 12 knots and we want to know how much distance we cover in, let's say, 3 minutes, then you draw it over to 3 minutes and you see we would cover approximately 1 kilometer and 150 meters approximately. And you can use it in any combination you want. So this is a very helpful and fast accessible tool as well for attacks, and mostly for attacks, because time frame of 200 minutes is not too long to really plan cruising or patrolling an area, but then you would have enough time actually to calculate it by yourself. I'm very bad in calculating things in my head, so I always need some tools. And having talked about that, let's go to the TDC and have a look at that. And I will show you more or less the basics of a torpedo attack and what values go into the TDC in theory. We don't have a contact now, and I think I want to do it first in theory because then I have more time to explain some things, and I will show it then to you in applied if we actually come up with a contact and when we are actually attacking. So let's go up into the conning tower and get to the TDC and the attack scope. So this thing here you see in the center of the screen, this is the German TDC, or Torpedo Vorhalterechner as it was called. It's not as advanced as the one that was used on the US subs, but I might be wrong. I'm not really a history freak in that sense, so I know how to use it, but I think I saw some more advantages when tracking in the US subs, but nevertheless we have to use that one. We can access it when we go to the attack scope or to the normal observation periscope, or as well to the USO, and we can as well see it when we are on the under hydrophone, but this is only available if we are actually on if you have installed some mods. It is not available. All the dials, you won't see them if you are using the vanilla version, the stock version of Silent Hunter 5. Then you only can access it via the first watch officer here. You can switch it on and off. It says here Torpedo Automated aus and on. And to get more options and to set the values, you would need to lock on to a target. We don't have that yet, so I have to use the dials. But the things that are working behind are the same. So I will show you that one when we actually have a contact. It's not necessarily that we use that one for explaining the theory of a torpedo attack. So the problem with the torpedo attack is actually that that the torpedo is much slower than a bullet from a rifle or a cannon shell, and therefore you have to, the lead angle you have to apply is much higher, and there's much more risk for failure, and you have to be acquiring a lot of information on the target speeds and course before you shoot. With a bullet or a cannon shell you can shoot and just correct from what you saw where the cannon the bullet hit, and adjust your lead angle by that. But with the torpedo it takes about a minute, or roughly a minute depending on the distance to the target, before it reaches the target, and a lot of things can happen in that minute. So you have to acquire a lot of information, you have to be more or less precise on it, and you don't have that much torpedoes, so you want that every shot counts actually. So you don't have 55 torpedoes and can shoot one another. And another thing is as well that if you shoot a torpedo and the ships are aware that you are around, they will start to zigzag and make it really hard to hit them. So the first hit, more or less, has to be on the target, otherwise it's just getting tremendously difficult to hit the target. So let's start with the basics of the torpedo attack, just to give you an idea of what is happening and what information do we need to make it successful. Let's assume we have a ship in this position here, and that we are somewhere around here. We assume that the ship is, for example, going a course of 260, and for simplicity we can just assume that we have a course directly north, so we would have a course of 0 degrees. When we shoot a torpedo, it will run for approximately a minute, or maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, depending on the range we have to the target. And a lot of things can happen during this minute, so it takes some time, and we have to be precise on what to shoot. We have to the torpedo will run on a certain course itself from our position where we shoot it, and it has to hit the ship. It has to cross the ship course, or the track of the ship at the exact time the ship is actually going through that spot. As easy as that. So we just have to make sure that we shoot a torpedo, and that way, with the speed on the correct angle, that it will actually be at the same point with the ship somewhere in the future. While the torpedo is running along this line, the ship will continue traveling down there, and hopefully they will actually come to this spot the same time, so that the torpedo hits the ship. That's the basic concept. But as said, it takes some time for the torpedo to travel along this, so we have to know the lead angle that we have to shoot the torpedo from. And that's not an easy task. It depends on a lot of variables. It depends on the ship's course, our own course, the torpedo speed, the ship's speed, and the attitude of the ship towards our course. So it's not a trivial problem, but we have some help. And this is the Torpedo Vorhalterechner, or TDC as it was called in the US subs. And it will calculate the lead angle, and you have to feed it some information that you have to acquire. And the information you need to put into the TDC are actually the speed, the range, the bearing, and the angle on bow. And I will go through all of these now and tell you what they are actually mean. So the speed of the target of the ship is obvious. It's just the speed that your target is traveling with. The range is as well kind of straightforward. It's just the range that you have to the target when you shoot a torpedo. So this would be, for example, 2,750 meters. The bearing is the angle between your ship's course and the line of sight that you have to the target. So in this case, it would be on a bearing of 42 degrees to our right. And the angle on bow is something similar. It's actually the angle between the target ship's course and the line from the ship to you. So this would be more or less be the bearing that the crew on the ship that you are attacking would see you. And with these 4 values, the TDC is able to calculate what lead angle the torpedo has to be fired with to actually hit the target. And it gives you as well an impact angle, or Einschlagwinkel in Deutsch. That is just the angle with the torpedo will hit the target. And you want to have that more or less perpendicular, so it should be 90 degrees left or right to actually increase the chances that the charge of the torpedo will go off. If it is a too shallow angle, it might be that the torpedo is either missing or that it kind of just hits the hull and continues to travel without actually exploding, and that would not be good. So we have a lot of dials here which we use to feed the information into the TDC. And you have the dials only if you're using some mods. You can see my mod list in the description. If you're using the vanilla default version of Silent Hunter 5, you do not have the dials, but you have to use the first watch officer dialog to put in the values. I can't show it to you right now because we have to lock on to a target before we actually can put in information into this window, and we don't have a target around now, so I will show you this when we have a target, but it works the exact same way and it's the exact same information. I wouldn't say that it is a less realistic way of playing actually, because if somebody is attacking and observing, he would just yell the information to the one standing on the TDC, and the one on the TDC would put the information into the computer. So I think it's from realism, it's the same thing, but of course it's much more fun to put it into the TDC yourself, and we see how it works as well. So let's go through all the dials that we have here. The first thing are not really the information that we need so that we get the correct lead angle, but they are more or less only the settings that you want your torpedo to have for this run. So this dial, for example, you can use this circular one here. You can as well use the standard one here. Is the depth of your torpedo. And for all this, I always tend to use those circular dials when possible, because if you use those you always get these annoying messages and the crew screaming at you all the time, and it does it repeatedly and repeatedly. So I want to have it quiet, so I use that once. Here you just you select your tube. You could as well just click on the numbers up here, but once again the crew will yell and yell and yell at you what they do and what they not do, and I just prefer to use that one. Here you could choose the speed of the torpedo. The torpedo that we have in tube 2 and 3, they have only one. No, let's see. This one has some more speed settings. You can set it to low, medium, and fast. Depends on the torpedo. Some torpedoes you can change the speed, some have a preset speed and you can't change it anymore. And if you want to know how fast your torpedo is going, you look into this inner dial here of the speed settings on this gauge, and it's showing you 40, so it means the torpedo will run with 40 knots. If you set it too low, you'll see it changes to 30 knots. So you get a numerical value for the torpedo speed here. If you want to change it with the standard tools that you have available, you have to choose that one here. And here you can change between what pistol the torpedo should use, if it would be an impact or a magnetic. A is for impact, meaning Aufschlag in German, and magnetic on the right. I tend to use the impact because it's a bit more safe, I think. There is a technique where you do not shoot directly onto the target ship, but you try to get the torpedo some meters under the target ship and to trigger the charge with magnetic impulse, and by that you lift the ship out of the water, and it's more likely that you break its neck and that it splits in half, which is a more effective way of using torpedo, but it's as well a higher chance that the charge won't go off, either because it's a dot or because you have the wrong depth, and so this is tricky one to use. The results, if everything is correct, are very good, but it's a safer way, in my opinion, to really have an impact directly on the hull. Dial here in the middle, you can change between single torpedo and a salvo, and you could now select all the tubes you want to fire in the salvo by just clicking on all the tubes and the numbers here, but then again the crew is yelling at you, so you can choose as well that one, and then you just search for the combination you want to have. So if you have to one the salvo with 2 torpedoes, or if you want to have a salvo with 3 or 4, you can choose it here, and you got this upper gauge here where you can determine and set the spread angle. And it's not the angle between each pair of torpedoes, but the complete spread angle. So depending on how much torpedoes you choose to fire, it will actually evenly spread the range in between that. And the spread cone is centered around the bearing you set into the TDC. So if you want to have, for example, a spread angle of 5 degrees, you would set it like that, and if you want to have a spread angle of 10 degrees, then you would have that, and all the torpedoes you fire would be evenly distributed into this spread angle. For single, you once again go that. And another important thing is those 5 buttons and switches up here. With these, you open the torpedo tubes. And that is another important fact, because if you don't open them in before and you fire, they have to open them before and then they fire. But the settings have been for the moment when you actually pressed the button to fire. So there's a time difference between when the torpedo leaves the ship and between when you actually press the fire button. And this is setting off and then introducing a bias into your solution, into a firing solution. If you open the tube in before and you press fire, the torpedo goes out immediately, and the settings are as precise as they can get. So just remember to open the torpedo tubes before you actually fire. This is more or less everything that you need to know for setting the torpedoes. And on the right side here, you have the dials to actually work with set in the values that you need for getting the correct firing solution. Let's go back to our example. For example, we see that one thing we need to do, the very basic one, is the bearing. You could set it in manually by just when you know the bearing, you can from a tech chart or whatever. For example, here it is 41. You want to put it in, you have to activate the TDC first by pressing this middle knob, and then you can use this dial where it says pylon, and you just drag and drop the marker where you want to have it. So 41, this would be approximately here somewhere. It's a bit fiddly to use the dials, but it's okay, you can work with it. And a much more elegant way is to link the bearing indicator to your scope. Because if I move the scope, you see that the bearing changes according to what I have here. So this is much a better way and much more precise way to choose actually the bearing for your shot. You just point it on the ship and you get the correct bearing. It only works if the TDC is not activated. If you activate it for manual input, it isn't coupled with the scope. So you have to deactivate it, and then you can choose the scope to actually set the bearing. The next thing that we would need to put in is the target speed, and I will tell you and show you some techniques how to actually get an estimate of the speed later. But just to show you now how to put it in, let's assume the target speed is, we know that the target speed is 7 knots. You just click once again this button for putting in the values manually, and then you choose this dial and this gauge to set the speed. So let's say 7, we set 7 knots, put it here for 7, and it's done. Another value that you need to know is the range. Let's get the range from this map, for example, and we see that the range is approximately 2,750 meters. We use that one and set the range. And the numbers here on the dial are in hectometers. That means times 100. So for having 2,700 and 50 meters, we have to put it somewhere around here in the middle. And you can see that you get a tooltip as well to see what kind of value you put in. Doesn't show up now, I did before, but it's 270 and 50 is approximately in between here, like that. Now it shows up again, so let's try to get it correct. Yeah, that's close enough. I don't know if it's my mouse or my settings, or if it's in general this fiddly, but you will have enough time to put it like that. Another way that you could use, and that you will likely use, is the statimeter, and that you activate by pressing here. But for that you would as well have to have locked onto a target, and you need to know, you have to have the target identified to know its height of the mast or of the chimney or whatever you use. And then you can use some mirrors inside the scope to get the viewing angle between the water surface and the mast tip, and you can calculate the distance out of that. And the statimeter does it automatically, but you have to have the correct mast height, and you have to have the correct identification of the ship to know the mast height. And as well, in the vanilla version, I think the statimeter is broken, so you would need to patch that or have a mod for it, and it's best you go to SubSim and search for it. I'm using the latest patcher version, and I made some tests and it seemed to work right within a reasonable range. So I wasn't spot on the meter, but I was plus minus 30 to 50 meters. I was correct with the range, and I think that is as far as you would get realistically as well in real life. I mean, it's not really a laser range meter where you get an exact distance, but it depends on how good you are in using the tool. It depends on you will have problems with your boat rocking in the waves. There's a lot of values that can actually lessen the quality of your measurements, but it should be good enough. So we have set the range now. Then what we need further on is the angle on bow. And if you have something like this attack block where you know where your ship is and where your target is, you can just use one of those tools again to measure the angle of bow like that, and you see it gives us the values of 37 degrees, and as well the bow of the ship, when we look at it, is on the left, and that means we have to use the dial on the right side, the left side here, and the red dials. If it would be the bow of the ship as we see it is on the right side, we need to use the green ones. You just take this one and you put it where you want it, and you can set the kind of tenth of degrees here, and you see the single digits down here, and you have to choose the corresponding color for the side you're on. So we have to use the red one. We have 37 degrees. That means we need to use 30 here in the 30 range, and down there we want to get 7. And as well, it's a bit fiddly get the correct value, but approximately like that, it should be okay. It would be nice to actually use the mouse, the scroll wheel, or you have a more precise version, but it will work. It's okay. If you use the dialogue with the first watch officer, you can set it a bit more precisely. So now you see we have all the information we need. We set it in like that. We are aiming onto the ship with our scope. We saw it on a bearing of, let's put it up, 41 degrees. Let's have 41 degrees again. So if you would fire on that distance with that bearing and this angle of bow and these settings, you will see the torpedo, the torpedo, what is it called? The gyro angle, I think it's called in English. In German it's Schusswinkel, is 45.5 degrees approximately. So it means, and this is in relation to our ship, to our own boat, not to true north. But I forgot to. Now we are on the wrong course, because our course is not 0 degrees, so we would need to actually go into the directly north course, and then this value would actually be correct with what we have drawn here. So I'm sorry for that. I forgot to go on to the correct course. So just ignore these values here now and these values here now. But you saw how I put in all the information into the TDC, and well, I think I stop here for now. Next video, I will show you some techniques on how to actually get this information that we need to put into the TDC to get a good firing solution. So I hope you found it informative and that you learned something. If there's something unclear, you're welcome to post into the comments, and I will try to clear things up. And see you hopefully next time. Bye.